Thank you for joining the Hacktivist video. And this is a overview of an SIM solution. Here we are about to discuss what is an SIM, what is a SOC, and how does an SIM tool function, and what is its importance in the industry as of now. So to start off with, I'll give a quick walkthrough. What is an SIM actually that you have been hearing everywhere in the a lot of interviews. If there are any security jobs, you might be looking for somebody with the security analyst roles. They might be asking for SIM skills in terms of configuration, implementation, management, monitoring, threat hunting, incident response and analysis. So what does actually mean? Where did this all this come up with? So we typically every system has something called logs that is generated for each and every event that occurs, and there are certain logs specific for security events. So the SIM comprises of two things mainly. One is SCM, which is about security event management, where we aggregate all these logs, all the security events recorded from these systems that we have, and then we aggregate and collect at a particular point. So then there is something called SIM, which is security information management, where it analyzes the logs. It might use some intelligence to analyze these logs, read through these logs, and give us an alert if there is a suitable match for a particular correlation or a particular signature or improper behavior that it has identified, or if it is find out any attack pattern similar between different endpoints or in the network that is going on. So SIM is more of an intelligence and SEM is more of aggregation and collection of logs. Combining together, it forms SIEM solution. So going forward, I'll explain you how an SIM architecture looks like typically in a basic terminology so that anybody without knowledge of even security or technology can understand what is an SIM, why is it important, how does it work. So this is what I have constructed so that it could help you. So remember these icons. So it might be your endpoints, antivirus solutions, and network devices, and web applications. So what we do is the logs from each and every system is moved to a particular storage space. Okay, I'm not going to say what it is. I'll just give you a walkthrough. From storage space, there is a software. So this software analyzes the information from this storage and then gives information about whether you can search and find, or you can do alarm or triggers or raise events. You can also stop something that is happening, or you can prevent something from happening, or you can also have a caution or an alert trace for others. So now I'm going to tell you how this is a typical approach, but what are all the endpoints or the source of logs that you can collect? How does it work? Now let's begin with the first one. So that is an endpoint which I'm showing on the left top corner, but it can consist of your laptops, desktops, servers, database, so virtual machines, anything that is having a system that is running on it, or it is a hardware or a software that's comprised of an operating system. It can provide security events which can be captured and we can move it to a particular location. And next thing is about your solutions. So you have host-based IDS, host-based IPS, you have antivirus, you have DLPs, you have FIM. Again, these logs also can be moved and collated and integrated for a particular intelligence. Next thing, your network devices. It might be comprising of your firewalls, switches, routers, wireless routers. All these things will come up with that, and your web applications as well. If you see, there is a lot of variety of applications or endpoints that you see on the screen right now. So if you have a team to manage all of these individually to go ahead and check security events, it will be very tedious task. It's time consuming. It requires a lot of people to do it, and it requires a special skill for each and every domain to understand what kind of events it is generating, if it is a security event, whether it's a true or false, and also if it is a true positive, and what is the steps to be taken, and how do we communicate to other teams if it is an attack that is happening, and how do you find out. So it becomes very challenging initially. So what they did, they collected the logs from all the different sources and they moved into a particular log server. So what this is a typical storage where all the logs are getting aggregated and stored. Now we will bring a software which is an SIM solution or a software. What it does is it will go to this log server and it will go through all the logs that is present in it so that it can read and give us the particular output. So what kind of outputs you can expect from this SIM solution? You can query, you can search and find out for a particular event, or you can find a sequence of events as well. You can create alerts by using correlation rules or signatures to identify a particular alert attack patterns and get the alerts done. You can also prevent certain SIEM solutions also provide with IPS, which is intrusion prevention solution, to prevent certain attacks from happening, also alerts, and also gives you the option to search. The last thing is about creating a caution or giving a notification about if something is changed in the behavior or analysis of the network. So it not only alerts for a particular attack, but also it gives you a caution if there is something suspicious that is going on by just going through all the information it has on a log server that is collected from different sources. Now, why do organizations need SIEM? So as I said, one thing to detect, alert, and do incident response immediately. Next thing, for compliance and audit purposes, because certain compliance requirements like PCI DSS says they should have a log monitoring solution so that they could identify attacks and respond to it within a particular timelines. The last thing is to protect the sensitive information. It might be their personal information, credit card information, health information, anything that is sensitive to the organization, and also critical data, which might be the financial data, or it might be the source code, or it might be their business proposals, anything that is sensitive and critical for that organization to operate. So all those information, if they want to protect, then they could use the SIM solution to analyze the logs from those machines, to understand the security events from those machines, even from the endpoints, that is from the operating system, also from additional security solutions, also from a network layer and from the web application layer. Everywhere you can get the logs aggregated and you can still monitor at one place, and it will also reduce a lot of time, effort, and human resource capability in terms of monitoring and managing all these activities. So how does SIM security analyst job would be? What do they do actually when they work? So first thing, an SIM analyst or a security analyst, if they are working in an SIM or a SOC, we call it, which is a security operations center, where there will be a team of people who will be sitting and who will be monitoring these logs on their computers every day, 24/7. So what do they do? So they actually analyze the alerts and logs received from the SIM solution, and then they can query. So typically, like your SQL queries, for each and every SIM solution, it has its own format to query it and fetch the inputs that you require in terms of reports, CSV, JSON, whatever, XML format, whatever the format you need. So you can run the query, you can fetch the information to validate how many alerts you have received, and then you have to analyze whether they are true positives or false positives. Again, true positive is nothing but which is actually an attack or a threat that is occurred. False positive is the wrong alert that you have received, and it might be an exceptional cases where the organizations have internal applications which might be performing automated backups or something, but it might still consider as a third party application trying to access. So this is a typical example of false positive where that can be excluded. Now, if you're not getting attacks at all, if you're not getting a proper alert, but the machine is limited to its capability because of its intelligence that has been fed, it might be having something called correlation rules, and it's similar to your antivirus patches, or we call it as antivirus signatures. So similarly, SIMs have correlation rules so that it can identify an attack pattern, it can analyze the traffic, it can understand what is happening in the logs, so that it can showcase whether there is a particular attack or a threat or incident that has occurred on the system. So what if this is not sufficient to give us the alert? So until or unless there is no correlation rule, there are no signatures, we will never get an alert. So there is something called threat hunting, where and security analysts can go ahead, manually query, go through those logs, identify anything suspicious based on your experience, instinct, and knowledge that is gained from the security field. So by analyzing all this information, he can also raise concerns in terms of finding an attack himself, or if there is an incident already occurred and there might be some suspicious activity or abnormal behavior. So we have that human instinct to sense that. So that one is a form of threat hunting that we do. And the fourth point is about incident response. Now we have identified the incident. It might be from the SIM directly giving us an incident alert, or we do a threat hunting and we found an incident. how do we respond to the incidents, and what do we do in terms of such situations? How do we contain it? How do we tackle the situation? How do we respond to it? And how do we identify the root cause of it and troubleshoot it and resolve the problem within particular timelines that have been agreed? And what is the severity of it? Everything comes under incident response, and there is a little bit knowledge of forensic analysis. Not much, or it might be a knowledge of security analysis as well, but depending on the role that you are working on, the knowledge would vary, or the requirement of for the knowledge would vary, because if we have to perform incident response and forensic analysis, there's a particular dedicated team. But sometimes some organizations might not have enough, resources to particularly spend on an incident response team or a responder. What they do is they hire a single person who can also analyze the logs, also do an incident response analyze, and do a forensic investigation to check whether the incident is actually occurred, what is the cost of data, how much data has been exfiltrated out of the organization, and what kind of ports and services have been affected, how many systems have been compromised, what kind of application or a malware that is running on the systems, etc. So all these things, if they have the knowledge, they can also able to go through those systems and do an incident response and analysis through forensic knowledge. Now, you don't the third part, I mean, like, if you see a security analyst do analysis, they do incident response, the major part that comes in terms of implementation. There are consultants who are mainly hired with a lot of big companies for implementing the SIM, so that they can understand the network, they can know how to place the firewalls, where to place them, what are security solutions are present. Among them, you can't take each and every log that the system is generated, because in SIM implementation, there is something called a log storage space that is required, because every device creates so many logs. You cannot store all those logs, and your SIM will work very, very slow. It might be ineffective if you're feeding them all the logs, because it takes time for it to go through each and everything. So SIM implementers are those who actually configure the logs, who tune the SIM solutions, also who knows what application logs or what device logs are mainly required for the SIM to function effectively, how to maintain those logs, retain those logs, how to secure this information, and also how to implement or set up an SIM solution and keeping it working. Because it's not only about the implementation, then after comes the maintenance, integrating with new devices, then getting those logs integrated to it, and see if it is actually functioning. So there are a lot of things that goes on in terms of SIM implementation, configuration, management, and also going further, if they wanted to add another additional things with the SIM itself, like adding an IPS or adding an FIM and getting those logs integrated, like a DLP, you want to get those logs. So you have to be very thorough of what kind of logs the SIM has to be fed with, what information we have to check in those logs, and how it can identify and work faster, instead of you feed them it might be more than a TB data or terabytes of data in a day in a bigger organization that you get. So the tool will be very, very slow if it has to go through all those logs. So make the SIM more effective. That is the job of the implementers. Then now, working in a 24/7 SOC facility is a typical job, because since SIM is a tool and the SOC facility is a security operations center which operates 24/7, and it goes in rotational shifts. The reason is we are doing monitoring over here. We are looking for attacks. So attacks can happen anytime. It's not on a particular timelines that we can expect it. So and a security analyst job also requires him to work 24/7. So if you have any doubts, like, okay, if you get into an auditing job, or if you're in a penetration testing, you have a freedom to work at your will, or you have a freedom to work in the day shift. But if you want to go get into a security analyst jobs, I want to keep it very much clear to you from the very beginning that this is a 24/7 jobs that you might expect. You might have to, maybe all the organizations might not accept, but majority of them which I have seen, actually they work for 24/7 only. Now, how many SIM solutions are there in the market that you can see? Because if you go to LinkedIn, you go to Now Cream and you search for security analyst jobs, you might see the skills required among them are the knowledge of Splunk, and QRadar from IBM, ArcSight from HP, Logarithm, Alien Vault, McAfee, Carbon Black. There's so many SIM solutions in the industry, and it's quite hard to learn everything. But top three, which I've been encountering a lot, is the Splunk, QRadar, and ArcSight. Most of them go for that. Now, if you ask me, like, what can I do if I don't want to use any of them, but I want an open source solution, just like we have Linux, which is open source. Can I still use them? Yes, there is solutions which is open source tools that is called ELK, which is a combination of three things, which is Elasticsearch for searching the logs, which acts as a search engine like your Google search. You put a keyword, it fetches the information out of webs from billions of pages. Similarly, Elasticsearch goes through all the logs that it's collecting. So you want to search something, Elasticsearch will give you that search engine capability. Now Logstash is where, which I told, SEM, it collects and aggregates the logs and makes it easier to Elasticsearch to run the queries and find it. And Kibana is a visualization UI where you will have the dashboard, you can set up the graphs, you can have all the colorful things so that you don't have to struggle in between getting the information. So people want to have an information in a presentable manner. So Kibana is used for it, using it in a representable manner. So this is elk architecture which they use, and sometimes there might be lack of intelligence in this, but there are many other open source intelligence providers which can be integrated with this solution so that it can work in an automated fashion, just like Splunk, Curate, and Arcside. But what happens in these tools is they have their own security engineering team, which actually reads or learns the attacks. They do reverse engineering, malware analysis. Then they also customize those inputs to their particular solution so it can detect those and determine those attacks if it is happening. But in terms of an open source architecture, we have to wait until somebody provides this intelligence to us, because it's open source, so somebody has to manually write it. And most of the time you might expect, because it's not customized for your application, it's a open source intelligence, there are chances of getting false positives a lot, and the major task will go in manual review and threat hunting manually and all those activities. But depending on the organization how much they want to spend on the tools, they can go with a full-fledged SIM solution, or they can go with an open source tools, and still they can build their own SIM solution. It's not that SIM means you have to go for a tool. No, you can also build a tool based on the solutions that is available in the market for free. Now, why you have to join the hacktivist? What is the purpose of joining the hacktivist, and why are we doing this video? The reason is hacktivist provides you the SIM solution, training, not only just exploring the different SIM software tools, but also to understand how an SIM works in a layman term, which I've explained right now. The same way, hacktivists help you to learn in technical terminologies as well, to see how an SIM works, how to build an SIM, how to configure it, how to manage it, how to know how actually an SIM works internally. It's like opening a clock and seeing all the gears, clocks, how they work together to make the time work effectively. So similarly, an SIM is also a solution which is a combination of many products. So you should be knowing thoroughly how an SIM actually works underneath the solution, so that you will know how to use it effectively. Next thing is having the knowledge and skill to understand attacks and perform threat hunting, which software may not be able to identify. That's a typical skill that we're going to teach you, because we have very well trained and experienced professionals who have worked with a lot of bug bounty huntings, who are VAPT and web app pen testers, who are mobile app pen testers. And then based on their knowledge, because an attacker knows what kind of when they set up in the lab and try to attack you, there are certain alerts that is triggered, there are some changes in the network or behavior, there are some changes in system behavior. Analyzing that, you can perform a manual threat hunting much more effectively than a person without a knowledge or skill. You can't purchase a skill with the knowledge that comes with years of experience. What you can purchase is, you can purchase a video where you will be taught on how to use these tools, but that instincts, that having the wisdom and knowledge to identify an attack, to manually do a threat hunting, is what hacktivists are more experienced in. So we have that knowledge and we are ready to share it to you along with our trainings. That's going to give you, instead of you spending 5 years down the lane learning all these kind of attack patterns and then doing a threat hunting manually, that knowledge we already have it from our trainers who are ready to share it with you along with our course. Now, the last thing is about how to perform incident analysis response, which is a key skill. So as I said, incident response and analysis is a separate team. So the people who monitor are a separate team in most of the organizations. They keep them in a different phase so that their segregation of duties is in place and it does not burden an analyst. But in certain companies, they don't have that much budget so that they could afford a new person completely for just incident analysis, because the attack the number of attacks that they might be facing, or the IPS not be able to prevent, might be very, very less. So they don't have to invest at all. So what they would require is somebody with incident response skills. And also, if you want to particularly focus on incident response, you need to understand about attack patterns, how does it happen, and also about the forensic knowledge and how to identify those attacks, how to analyze those attacks, and where you can find those information to determine whether it's a if there is a breach that has happened, what kind of data has been moved out of the network. So these are all like forensic knowledge. So we also are experienced in forensic as well. In forensic trainings also we do provide. So because of that, you can also learn the required forensic knowledge for doing incident response and analysis. So it covers all the major part. You will learn how an SIM works, how it functions, how it operates, and then you will know also about a tool which is Splunk. Not only just how an SIM works, you will also know about a software which actually uses all these concepts and how does it work. Second thing, you will have the knowledge of attacks. How does attacker do perform the attacks? What kind of tools that he use, and how that threat hunting has to be performed by analyzing or keeping in mind in an attack simulation phase. So I mean, like, you have to prepare yourself and think like an attacker so that you can identify those attacks when you do a threat hunting. The last thing is to do a forensic analysis in case of you find an incident or a breach. How do you do a forensic analysis or incident response by acquiring those skills? So all the three things that is required for a security analyst job. And if you want to get into any kind of job which requires these skill set are there, you can go through the Naukri or LinkedIn, or you can go to Shine or Monster, open any security analyst job. You might see these three things are the core ones. And somebody may lack one or the other skill, but here we are trying to cover all the skills that is required for a professional security analyst who is job ready for the industry. And what are the skills that the industry is looking for? That is what we are preparing you up to, not just on a particular tool, but also all the skills that is required for you to work as a security analyst.